And greetings, and welcome to another uh, ABE Commentaries. And now I'm back to looking at the ABE communications and my commentaries from the reality game. And now I will look at the third session, section 3 of the book, which is dealing with the theme of relations with the world around us. And so obviously the theme of the book, or the subtitle, relations with ourselves, the world around us, and the greater universe. So Abe will start talking about our relationship with the greater universe, but for now it's the world around us. And Abe comes back to a familiar theme, which is about how we humans are tending to increasingly moderate the world around us through our gadgets, through our devices. That is, we kind of give away our sovereignty or our independence to, like, the middleman, the middle kind of broker or devices to in our relations, which is these days is increasingly technology. And of course, we can use technology like I'm doing now to converse and communicate further afield. But just because we do this when it's necessary, i.e., to release talks and videos, doesn't mean it's always necessary in all our parts of life. And Abe talks about how this is becoming increasingly so. Because obviously, Abe begins to talk about how it becomes like a secondhand exchange, that we don't have a direct relationship, we have a second-hand relationship because we have something in the middle, increasingly so. And Abe says here, quote, whenever there is something placed between yourselves, be it a gadget or even the mental wall that you create to guard yourselves, it is always a second-hand exchange. So as if we're moving from the genuine default mode to a kind of step back second-hand mode. And it's not only technologies, as Abe says, it's also could be our mental constructs, our walls, our ego, our false personalities, anything that gets in between our essential connection, our genuine interaction and relation, then we get a further step removed. And then you see it's much easier to kind of get used to this sense of alienation almost, and to then build upon it. As Abe says, that once this kind of divide exists, quote, it's easy for this divide to be widened and fed into. Once something exists, it's much easier then to feed into it continuously, and then we get used to it. Now, I just come back from visiting a very large urban center, and as you may know, I live in a rural area, which I prefer. But when I traveled into this major metropolis, you get to see how many people are really stuck in their phones. Now, especially in the travel hubs, I think I perhaps observed about 90% of the people in the travel hubs and the trains and the stations looking at their phones. Now, I can understand that sometimes it's a kind of it's a mechanism not to be able, not so you don't have to like engage with people, because sometimes when you're traveling, people don't want you to look at them. But it doesn't mean that we can't engage in a book, or we can't just engage with looking at the environments around us. When I travel by train, I enjoy looking at the world around me, the buildings around me, the countryside that I'm moving through. I don't look at my phone really when I'm traveling, only if I need travel data. But I see so many people just glued in their phones. I saw people get up from their seat, walk to the exit, looking at their phone, step off the train, and walk across the platform, still glued to their phone. For me, that's quite strange because I don't see that in my rural environment, but maybe that's becoming the norm. You tell me. So, what's important, of course, is that the real foundation of a human life is humans. And I hope we're not forgetting that. Um, and we should not lose the connection with our genuine humanity and our vibrational state, our vibrational signature that represents that. Abe says here, quote, "You are the foundation in which a new world needs to be built upon. Each and every one of you are a part of this foundation." So Abe says that it's the human aspect which is the foundation and the foundation of the new world, not technology, not something exterior to ourselves, but the human being. And we need to, I suppose, get back to being closer to the aspects of the human being. And I suppose maybe to strip things down a bit and just to um, get back to basics of what it means to be human. And Abe says that this is not something that would happen overnight to come back to ourselves. Quote, "Like we repeat, it is a becoming, and humanity will not change overnight the programming that has been embedded within you, but it is time to start to cut it back to the basics, for that is where the truth lies." Again, that sense of the way back home is, on multiple levels. The way back home to maybe where our soul spirit is, our connection to that home resonance, but also home to ourselves, being comfortable in our skin, being comfortable with just, you know, the aspects of being human and human becoming, and rather than trying to put everything outside of ourselves onto responsibility of technology and all these fancy gadgets and etc. and AI. We cannot change the programming overnight because humanity has been greatly programmed, especially so over the last recent decades and years. And I think we're being programmed to put things out of ourselves, the race to technology and transhumanism away from humanity. We've got to break off that programming and come back to basics. And if we don't get back to ourselves, then we're increasingly at the sway and impulses of an exterior life, which is tossing us around like a ship on a stormy ocean, to use that metaphor. Again, quoting from Abe, quote, "It is fine to meddle out there in the world, but it will be swung and swayed. You will not have the strength and indeed the capacity to create these pathways without firstly doing so within. It is indeed so, as within, so without." End quote. So again, it's fine to get involved in life, to meddle with life, but you will be swung around about it. You will be swayed by these currents and ripples and events. And if we don't have the pathways within ourselves, our own kind of inner sense and inner navigation, then we cannot really have it without. It's having the inner navigation to transpose it onto the exterior life. If not, we're at the whim and mercy, at the sway and swinging of exterior events. So it comes from the inner foundation, as within, so without. We can put out those navigational pathways in the world exterior to ourselves, but it must come from us first. So Abe says that, and Abe repeatedly says, we need to synchronize up to our vibrational signature. And again, as they've said over many, many messages, each person has a vibrational signature. Just as we have a name, which again, words are vibrations, we have a name. That name gives a vibration. Each person has a vibrational resonance. It's our kind of state of soul resonance, you could say. And we We need to kind of relate to that. We need to sync up with that. If we don't, we're at the mercy of external forces. If we do sync up, we're more receptive to align with those vibrational pathways that are in sync with our own vibrational signature. And Abe talks about the idea of unity, which again is a much often quoted and much often understood concept. Just to finish with a larger quote from Abe on the idea of unity and how we may misconceive it. Quote, unity doesn't mean everything will be happily ever after. No, but it does so allow you to see the connection in things and the wholeness. It is not about life giving you constant happy gifts and continually being positive. It is really about the beauty of wholeness, and that wholeness starts with you. In unity, you are given back your power, for you see that things are not good and bad, but just that you withstand, because your happiness is not dependent upon things outside of you. End quote. So that unity is really the unity within us, that foundation, that kind of relation with ourselves, a genuine relation with ourselves, that wholeness within ourselves, that connection to our soul, our vibrational signature. So happiness is not about receiving gifts. It's not about false positivity or positivity within the program, positivity within a pop song. It's not about the good or bad, because these are modalities that are often created external to us. It says you withstand because your happiness is not dependent upon things outside of you. I think that's very important. Our happiness, our state of being, our state of balance is not dependent on things external to us. They can be a part of it. It's just not dependent on it. It's dependent on the wholeness we have within ourselves. And that gives us our grounding. And I think that's a valuable advice for these days and times ahead. So that's a first part of relations with ourselves from the ABE Communications, the reality game, and I'll come back with more in due time. So as always, stay healthy, stay sane, and stay grounded. Cheers.